And another executive said, I'll top that. If you guys can get to 1 million users within a week, then I will fly you to Paris. So they got to 1 million in 4 days without any cross promotion at all, any advertising. So I think they're still waiting on that trip, though, I have to say. So that just blew the expectations out of the water. Within, I think, 4 months, they were at 20 million daily active users, which is still the biggest game on Facebook by far. And that's all, I think, due to execution. Because think about this. It took them from the day we completed this particular acquisition that kind of helped with this, it took them 5 weeks to build this game. 5 weeks. Now, most products, just general products, don't get built in 5 weeks. This is the biggest game ever in social games. It got built in 5 weeks. It's all about execution. And so we get this thing at Zynga called Zynga Speed. And what Zynga Speed is essentially is we can do anything twice as fast as anybody else, and we do, and will. And they might did. And what that really is about hiring the right people. And I found this really interesting hack in Zynga. If you hire people who are achievement-oriented, like people who are at the top of their classes at the top universities, those people have their whole lives been primed to achieve, just primed. And if you put them in a corporate organization, they still want to achieve. And all you have to do is tell them what to do, and they'll do it. And if you want them to do more, you just tell them to do more. And they will voluntarily give up weekends, nights, sleep 3 hours a night just to achieve whatever you ask them. You just keep asking. It's amazing. But and I think that's actually why people hire people at the top of their classes. And I never really understood that until I was at Zynga. So what Zynga does is they just push. They push people to their best possible self. And I really quickly, I don't want to sound like a shill for Zynga, because I don't work there anymore, but I did have a good experience there, and I would say some of the people that I work with are probably some of the smartest people I've ever worked with in my life. And that's something that you all should do when you're doing a startup. It's the team, it's the team, it's the team. Like, if you have smart, driven people, you will build something awesome. If you do not, you will fail. I made that mistake. I hired contractors in my startup. Guess what happens? They don't care. You need people who really care about what you're doing, or you're not going to succeed. So that's just a kind of crucial thing that goes along with the execution. But I think not just execution, it's execution plus strategy that's the key. So, like I said before, Mark had this vision, which social games everywhere, and there's like a star out there in the sea, and Zynga was a boat, and no matter what happened, the boat's moving towards that star. But then opportunities arise, right? Like a farm game or a cafe game, right? Not necessarily where, the direct method to that star, but, we'll take this opportunity in here, we'll take it in here, we'll take it here. As long as that boat's still moving to the star, awesome. And I think that's the key of having a good strategy, is that everybody knows we're still moving towards that. So when you're actually getting on these side paths, everybody in the company knows to direct them towards that. So anyway, that's kind of, Silicon Valley is a bit of a black box. And so I thought that might be helpful for understanding the kind of how Zynga got there. And also I'll recap my thoughts, and hopefully, again, this is very meandering because I just came up with this when I was drinking coffee this morning. So the key is really having somebody who's intellectually, a CEO who's intellectually capable of change. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but it's really hard for people to give up their ideas. So if, for instance, you start a company and you say, I want to start a forms company. I want to make a company that does forms. And another opportunity comes up, and the technology is similar to forms, but it's not forms. You're like, no, our company's about forms. Guess what? You're screwed. Like, you could make money doing something like forms, but you didn't because you were attached to forms. Mark Pincus is not attached to any idea. He will go with whatever's working, and that is really, really hard. So I encourage you, for all of you who are starting companies, don't get so in love with your own ideas that you can't change, or you will fail. But at the same point, you have to have that long-term vision up there in the corner to move towards. So that's helpful. The other aspect I would say is in Silicon Valley is you raise money. And the reason you raise money is not because you raise money for no reason. I find people are always asking for money and they don't know why they want it. The reason you want money is because if there's an opportunity big enough, you need to move fast. Most of the opportunities people are following in startups are not big enough to even need money. If you're going to a Silicon Valley guy like a Dave McClure and you're saying, hey, I think my idea could be worth $2 million in 2 years, why is he going to waste his time? Those guys need very big returns. So if you have the big idea, you raise a lot of money so you can get there. So Zynga may have raised like 30 million back in the day and now another 300 million, but that's only because they're pursuing an opportunity that they can see is a $10, $20 billion opportunity. That's a giant opportunity. So if you want to raise because you need it and know why you're raising it. And you're raising it because you need the resources to double down on this giant opportunity that you've luckily uncovered because you've been pursuing a market space with a product that you're passionate about. So that's kind of the takeaway there. Really quickly, how much time do I have, guys? Time?
30 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, good. All right, so like that was that. Like now I'll kind of go into a little bit about what the presentation is actually doing. Unless there's any questions about that, you know, I can go deeper into that stuff. No, good. All right, good. Oh, that's great. All right, so let me talk really quickly about social games, which is not necessarily relevant to all of you here. Actually, how many people in the audience, can you just raise your hand, actually are familiar with the social games industry at all? All right, so like a tenth of you. The rest of you could care less. So I'm going to educate you really quickly on why you should care about social games. First of all, it's something that's universal that everybody's playing across the world. Everyone's playing social games right now. And right now, I would say the industry is worth about $1 billion. And that's within 3 years. So we went from 0 to $1 billion in 3 years. To give you a sense of just talking about Farmville, 20 million people play that a day. The current population of Singapore, I looked, is 5 million people. So take Singapore and quadruple it, and that's how many people are playing one game on the internet every single day. So this is a massive, massive trend happening, and it's affecting every one of you. And you don't quite understand how it's affecting you yet. I don't think any of us do, but I think it's significant. Nothing that's affecting that many people and has that much money in it is not significant. So that gives you an idea of social games. Sorry, and a social game, just to be clear, because I'm so used to talking to people who know, I forget that not everyone knows what it is. It's a game that is played on a social network or a game that's connected to the social graph. So it doesn't have to necessarily live on Facebook, but in general it does, or another social network like Red or Mixie. But it has to definitely have some type of social connection. And generally, you play them with friends, but not in every case. So that's kind of what social games are about. Really quickly, I didn't even talk about myself much. That's me, and I have that lovely picture. So I kind of covered this a little bit already, and I do blog, and if you ever want to, you can check out BretTerrill.com. I don't update it very often, but I'll try and be better about it now that you're all going to read it every day. All right, so again, a little more about social games. It started like 3 years ago, almost exactly. Back then, a game that had 100,000 users was like huge. Like you have no idea. People were like, "Oh my God, it's 100,000 users! It's amazing." I mean, now Farmville is 20 million, so who cares? And making $1,000 a day, that was an immense amount of money. People were like, "I can't believe I can make money on the internet in Silicon Valley." People just didn't understand that. Silicon Valley is not a place where you do companies to make money. And after Zynga, that's how you do it. I'll just skip that slide actually. Skip that one because I already covered this stuff. So just give you a sense of how this grew. Facebook actually added 400 million people since the launch of the app platform. So in many ways, the success of this whole social games industry is the success of Facebook. If we didn't have all those people to serve, then we wouldn't be able